Hi everybody, my name is Rosy Crumpton and I am the author of I Left Unsaid, A Latina's Journey Toward Truth. With everything that's going on right now, a lot of authors are taking the time to read and share their works with the world. And so I'm jumping on the bandwagon, and today I am going to read you an excerpt of my novel. Just to give you a little bit of background story on this story is based on true events. I published it in English about 2 years ago, but the Spanish version, Todo lo que callé, is coming out very, very soon. So I'm so excited about it. And I'm going to share this with you today. For those of you that haven't had the chance to read the English version, you're welcome to get a taste of it today. And for those of you that understand Spanish and want to read the Spanish version, it will be out soon. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Today, this is a whole novel. Obviously, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but what I am going to read is this book it's a love letter. It's from Big Sister Olivia to her younger brothers and sisters, and it begins with a letter from Olivia to her siblings. So I'm going to read you that letter, and then I'm going to read you chapter 1. I hope you like it. Here goes. Dear kids, where should I begin? I can tell you that sharing this story has been years in the making. There is so much to remember, so much to share, and so much to relive. It wasn't easy to put this all in writing, but what really motivated me was when I decided to write this for and to each of the 4 of you. Carrie, John, Celeste, and Amelia, the 5 of us share a mother, and it's no secret that my relationship with Mommy has had its challenges. Over the years, you witnessed uncomfortable interactions between Mommy and me that you were too young to understand. You may have wondered why I was so obsessive about you 4 always being by my side. You may only remember the times when we lived in the Newberry Roadhouse and may have forgotten all the wonderful memories I cherished with you before we lived there. The thought that you may only remember our family from your teen years scares me because I was a different person then. I was someone who didn't always set a good example for you. When I left our Newberry Road home, I did it because I had to save myself. I made a selfish decision to leave, but it wasn't easy. I felt a weight of guilt come over me when I left the 4 of you behind as I drove away behind Raymond's white Chevy Blazer that Saturday morning. You cried and watched me leave without knowing why. I couldn't tell you why I left back then. 11 years later, I'm ready to explain. If I had shared this story with you years ago, it would have had a different tone and another ending. It wouldn't have been a story of growth. It would have been a story of bitterness, anger, and even rage. I've learned so much over time, and I want to share it with you. As you read this, please don't be angry at Mommy or Papi, and please don't be mad at me for keeping you in the dark. I'm so very proud of each and every single one of you. Each of you only 1 year apart and so unique. You've all grown up to be adults with unique paths. I love you more than any words can express. You're my world and always have been. I know you're not kids anymore, but you will always be my kids. I love you today and always, and I will be here for you no matter what. Your big sis, Olivia. Before I get into chapter 1, this book has a lot of emotions that I hope you're ready for. I get a lot of feedback from readers about just going through the journey with Olivia. And those of you that read it, I always say the same thing, but I ask readers to honor Olivia's story, honor the family and immigration story that is in this book. But if anything, I hope that you take away the resilience that we all have to dig deep and be able to come out of the circumstances that sometimes life gives us. So anyway, here it goes. Chapter 1, April 16. Months after the 6 of us should have moved out of the Newberry Road home, I still stared at the unpacked boxes lined up in my bedroom closet. The boxes were a reminder to me of how close we came to leaving once and for all. What hurt most is that I really believed it this time. The rest of you had already unpacked and settled back in, but I didn't mind rummaging through the boxes to get to my things every day. This was only temporary for me. I was going to leave one day. The 6 of us had plans to move into a 2-bedroom apartment not far from the Newberry Roadhouse on April 16. You all would still go to the same school. We didn't want to disrupt your life too terribly if we could help it. The 4 of you knew of our plan to leave. For you, all it only took months, but for me, it took years. Before the 6 of us deliberately arranged to move out, I had all intentions of moving out of that house, far away from him, as soon as I could. I was a college graduate and could afford a place of my own. It seemed like the American thing to do. But when I told Mommy of my plans to leave, she couldn't understand it. I told her I wanted to get my own apartment. I explained that although I wasn't married, I was of age. Most people I went to college with thought it was strange I still lived at home. They didn't say it, but I could see it on their judgmental faces. I had always maintained at least one full-time job and multiple part-time jobs. I had saved up enough money to quit the seafood restaurant I had worked at all through college and started my career using my psychology degree, serving people with disabilities and mental health diagnoses. I had done everything right. It was my time to be free and independent, finally. But when Mommy didn't want me to leave her, she told me she was ready to leave Papi, but she couldn't do it without me. Packing up to leave the Newberry Road home was probably the first time you remember Mommy wanting to leave him, but trust me, she had done this before. I had heard this for what seemed like 100 times, and I couldn't take her seriously anymore. What now? I asked. She explained his irresponsibility with managing finances, how he continued to drink and refused to go to church with us, and how she believed he was cheating on her yet again. She pleaded for my help to get out of there. I hated that she asked. I hated her for putting this responsibility on me. Why couldn't she do this on her own? Why couldn't she be independent? She had a hold on me I hadn't been able to shake. If you're serious, then I'll help you, I said. I was down to one job at the time, but now as the primary breadwinner of our 6-person family, I would have to go back to working multiple jobs. That's how Papi had been able to support us. That's all I knew how to do. With my pride wounded and against all my desires and dreams, I asked for my job back at the seafood restaurant and was hired for the 2nd time without a problem. I was yet again working 2 jobs. I didn't want to work there again. I didn't want to work my full-time office job to then go straight to work 40 hours at the restaurant. Mommy only worked the one job I drove her to and picked her up from Monday through Friday, and then went home to take care of you all. Why couldn't she get another job? I didn't want this to be my life, but I did it for the 4 of you, not for her. I was finished with her. On my first day back at the seafood restaurant, I cried in the parking lot before walking in. Little did I know how much worse the job would be this time around. Another employee called out sick one night, so the manager ended up closing the restaurant with me. He was unsuccessful in finding a replacement and was not happy about working longer than he wanted to. Closing with the manager meant I did all the cleaning while the assistant manager, Mr. Williams, counted down the money and took it to the bank. I was in a hurry trying to get all of the cleaning done and left the bathrooms for last. I was in the ladies' bathroom cleaning the fingerprints off the mirror when Mr. Williams walked in. He startled me. I thought he might have something to tell me, but he didn't say anything immediately. I looked up as I saw him lick his lips in the reflection before me. Very nervously, I smiled. "Those khakis look really good on you," he stated, as he walked slowly toward me. He flashed his smile. His gold front tooth stood out greedily among the white ones. I took a deep breath as I finished up. "I just have to finish the trash, and I'm done," I said. He now stood directly in my way, hanging one-handed from the beam that connected the single stall to the wall. "Aren't you going to say thank you?" he asked, as he cornered me. I stood still, facing the mirror in utter fear. "Thank you," I whispered. If I comply, he'll go away, I thought. Before I knew it, he had one hand around my waist and drew me to him. My butt pressed against his pelvis. He moved my head to one side and licked and kissed my neck. I could smell stale gum on his breath. I stood frozen, too weak to stand up for myself. I'll see you tomorrow, he whispered as he let go of me. Don't forget the trash. Dodging him at every chance, I worked there for a few months, saved up some money, and leased a 2-bedroom apartment under my name. Mommy didn't have good credit. I knew this and applied for credit cards that helped pay for back-to-school clothes and supplies for the 4 of you. We had a move-in date of April 16 and a deposit already down on our soon-to-be apartment. We told you all we were moving without Papi and that we couldn't tell him. The 4 of you suspected this and knew the situation between Mommy and Papi was obviously not functional or loving. You each packed your things and boxed them up. Mommy had always been clear that it was always us 6. Although we all lived together, Papi was always separate and an outsider. None of you were upset about this decision. We weren't ever attached to him emotionally, only financially. 2 days before our anticipated big move, Mommy changed her mind and decided to stay with him. Papi told Mommy he was going to buy a new dream house in a nice neighborhood in the suburbs, and this house was going to be nicer and better than any we had ever lived in. This news distracted Mommy from the real reason we were leaving. She was miserable and had been planning to leave Papi for over a decade. She dreamt of a bigger home and thought about the 2-bedroom apartment that awaited us. She chose the dream of her house. She chose him again. By this time, I'd had more than enough with the both of them. I decided I was moving out despite her decision to stay. I had lost my hard-earned money on the deposit, and I was exhausted at her cowardice. Why could she not leave the man who made her so damn miserable? Everyone I knew who had graduated was trying to live independently, starting their own lives, having fun with friends, going out, while I had to tell people I lived at home because of our culture. It was embarrassing, but saying I couldn't move out until I got married was much easier than explaining our ridiculous situation. My mom didn't want me to leave her and her 4 kids with the man she chose to marry. Sometimes seeing the boxes in my closet made me angry because we didn't leave on April 16 as planned, but mostly it kept me driven. Come with us to the new house, said Mommy, still fantasizing about the bigger house Papi had promised, but I decided I was moving out and I was going to follow through, unlike her. I would never live in that new dream house he'd promised her. I yearned to leave the Newberry Road house every day. Each time I showered, I'd watch over my shoulder, afraid Papi would come in. I'd sometimes sleep in the living room because from there I could hear when his bedroom door opened while you all slept in your rooms. I'd have sleepover movie nights in my bedroom where I could keep an eye on the 4 of you all night and hear if he ever came in. I lived in total paranoia. Papi had lost my trust a long time ago. Mommy had lost my respect. The situation at home was insufferable, and I was extremely unhappy. I had started to resent Mommy and Papi, especially Mommy. I felt stuck. I wanted our parents to be a single unit separate from me, and I didn't know how to express it. I wanted them to be responsible and loving. I didn't want or need the responsibilities I had. I wanted to be a normal big sister. I wanted to live the lives my peers lived. Instead, I had done everything our parents always wanted me to do. They didn't understand what I was doing was normal for them and our work hard and hustle culture. But I wanted to live my dreams. I wanted to be on my own. Although I loved you guys with all my heart, I didn't want to be the one responsible for adjusting my work schedule to take you to doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, orthodontists, chaperone field trips, volunteer at your school, attend parent-teacher conferences, email your teachers when you were absent, etc., all while going to school and working multiple jobs. As much as I enjoyed being there for you, I didn't want the weight of that responsibility. It was my responsibility to take Mommy to and pick her up from work. I took her to her medical appointments that were frequent since she'd had her first stroke during my sophomore year of college and developed epilepsy. Amelia's doctor's appointments were just as frequent with her epilepsy too. All of this weighed heavily while I tried to work and go to school over the years. I would do anything for our family, and I did, but I had reached my limit and no one understood, especially Mommy. Through my eyes, Papi was getting off easy by not having to participate in his kids' lives, and Mommy was grateful, but saw these tasks as my family responsibilities. By this point, I was tired and felt like I was missing out on things I really wanted to do. I wanted to live my life. I wanted to leave. I had put my time in. The summer after we didn't move out, Mommy told me that Puppy's mom, Grandma Veronica, may be moving in with us because she was sick and getting older. The memories I had of her were all negative ones, and I knew I had to make my move fast. I wouldn't live under the same roof with her again. Surely I would be asked to take care of her, and I refused to take care of someone who didn't even accept me as her own granddaughter. I knew this because she had told me so. I secretly began to look for my own apartment. I was in a new relationship during that time. I had just started dating Raymond, and during a conversation about apartment searches, he invited me to move in with him. Normally, this would have been a crazy thought in a new relationship, but I accepted his offer. We had been dating for 6 months. Although he didn't want me to contribute financially, I insisted on paying 50% of all the bills combined. Once we agreed on my terms, we made plans for me to move in that Labor Day weekend, exactly 139 days after April 16. It genuinely felt like the right thing to do. My best friend Saheli had a hard time understanding my decision. She was my most trusted friend, practically family, but even she didn't know all my reasons for leaving. She hadn't met Raymond yet, but only because we lived in different states. She felt I was making an impulsive decision, and she was looking out for my best interest. I was the good Catholic girl. Saheli was the good Hindu girl. We held each other accountable to be safe and responsible at all times. I packed up the remainder of my things without telling Mommy and Papi. I sat the 4 of you down and told you of my plans to move. Very strategically, without revealing too much information, I told you to pay attention to anyone who may want to harm you. I reminded you that your body parts are private and told you all to tell me of anything that made you uncomfortable at any time. And I told you I would be at the Newberry Road home within minutes if you called me. Thinking back on that conversation now, I must have scared you all a little. I wanted you to know I was serious, but I couldn't tell you exactly why I had said those things. You were too young to know the truth about him, but I wanted you to be aware of danger and know to call me if you ever felt it. By this time, you knew how to take care of Mommy and Amelia when they had seizures. You all knew to call me while I was at work, and I would walk you through what to do. I assured you I would be around when you needed me, even if it was every day. I asked you to keep my move a secret from Mommy and Papi until I told them, and all 4 of you did. I was packed and ready for that Saturday morning, but it didn't go exactly as planned. The Friday before I planned on moving, Mommy got sick. She had one of her bad seizures and ended up going to the hospital that night. The doctors increased her medications, and she was released to come home after overnight monitoring. She didn't know of my plans, but of course she always found a way to ruin them. Because of her hospitalization, I had not been able to sit down to tell Mommy and Papi that I was planning on moving in with Raymond. I wanted to tell them of my plans that Friday night and had been dreading the conversation all week. They found out a little more abruptly that Saturday morning as Raymond was on his way to pick me up. Papi arrived from the hospital with Mommy that morning. He had stayed with her at the hospital during the night like she asked. It's so many years later, and I still can't understand what spell he had over her. She couldn't let him go. I texted Raymond to come get me as soon as they pulled in. I wanted this to happen, and I wanted it to be fast. Knowing he was on his way started the countdown for me. My new life was waiting. Living in sin with my new, sweet boyfriend was somehow more comforting to me than staying in this home for another minute. Like a bandage, I let it rip as soon as our parents walked through the door. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you last night like I had planned, but I'm moving out, I said. Raymond is on his way to pick me up. What? Mommy whispered in disbelief. I knew at that moment she was fine. I also knew she was getting ready to use her illness to guilt trip me into staying. I knew her. She knew exactly how to get me. She knew her epilepsy had kept me in that house longer than planned, and she was arming it to use against me. I'm moving out, I said adamantly. I was afraid and mustered courage from the pit of my anger. Olivia rose. I just got here from the hospital. You haven't even asked me how I'm feeling. She squinted her eyes as if she were in some sort of pain, begging for sympathy, and used my first and middle name to assert authority. There she goes, I thought. I wasn't going to let her win this time. Raymond is on his way, I said calmly. It didn't come out as firmly as I had hoped, but my statement was true. He was on his way, all my things were packed in my room, and my decision was made. I was going to finally move away and start my life. Is that the boy I met not that long ago? Puppy asked. Yes, and I'm sorry, but I have to go. I began to gather my things. I was anxious and so close to leaving. It was really happening this time. I was finally going to escape. Mommy became angry at this point. She raised her voice at me in an attempt to keep me in her nest. You're not moving. Are you crazy? I don't know this boy. You don't know him, she shouted in Spanish. I'm still going to take you to work and pick you up. I'm still going to take care of the kids. I'm still going to make sure they have everything they need. No, you're not, she interrupted. Puppy rolled his eyes and headed to his bedroom. This was typical of him, absent and disconnected. Mommy carried on with her yelling. I knew she was fine. How are you still going to be here for us? How can you leave us like this? She shouted. I headed down the stairs to my bedroom where I found you girls. You looked worried and Celeste was crying softly. Celeste was always the first to cry. I've always admired her sensitive and vulnerable spirit. It's okay, I said, trying my best to comfort all of you. I heard the roll of the tires and saw the shadow of Raymond's truck pull into the driveway. Come on, will you help me bring my things to the car? I double-tapped Carrie on the knee. As the oldest of the four of you, I saw her as the next one in line to set an example. She immediately came to help me while Mommy continued to yell. I can't believe you're leaving me, she cried. I can't believe you're leaving us, your family. I'm not leaving you. I'm literally 7 minutes away. You'll see me every day. I just can't live here anymore, I said, moving as quickly as possible. Mommy stormed upstairs and joined Papi in their bedroom, leaving the five of us behind. In a hurry, I greeted Raymond at the back door with a handful of my belongings. He was clueless of the dramatic happenings only moments before. I had thought about asking him to pick up my things the night before while Mommy and Papi were at the hospital, but I thought it would be disrespectful to do so before talking to them. I didn't bring many things with me. I only brought my clothes, books, toiletries, and important documents, which had already been pre-packed. Within 3 minutes, my bedroom had been cleared out. Don't forget what I told you, I said to all of you. If you need anything, or if anyone tries to hurt you, you call me. Got it? I'm right down the street. I can get here in no time. You all nodded while we hugged. Your tears broke my heart. But if I didn't leave now, I didn't know if I ever would. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? I waved, blew you guys a kiss, and drove away in my car following Raymond. I knew I was doing the right thing for me, but I didn't feel like I was doing the right thing for you. And that's the end of chapter 1. I hope you enjoy it. My book is available everywhere that books are sold. It is also on Amazon if you are staying in. You can also get signed copies at local indie bookstores, like Park Road Books right now is doing, you can call them in and you can drive through and pick up a signed copy of my book. So support local when you can, but if you're not leaving home, like I said, Amazon has the book and it's also on Kindle if you prefer to read electronically. Enjoy, be well, take care. Bye.